Welcome back everyone to another jikGeek in the week. This is episode 4 and I'm your host JG. If you're joining us in the chat, it's great to have you with us. Hope you enjoy the podcast tonight. Lots to talk about. We're going to kick off things talking about James Gunn's new DCU slate and talk about all of the entries. Talk about first reactions, talk about what it means going forward for the DCEU. We've got Mandalorian Season 3 trailer to go over. I was meant to do a reaction on the channel, but just, other priorities. We're going to talk about Marvel's Phase 5 slate and look at all of the entries for this year. And we're also going to talk about some Final Fantasy news as well. Yeah, as usual, I've got you on the chat on my phone, following there. I'm yet to get 2 screens. So once I get 2 screens, I can start following you on the screens there. Yeah, like I said, if you're joining us in the chat, great to have you with us. And yeah, I think we're just going to, as usual, we're just going to do a quick sound check just to make sure everything's working okay, and then I think we'll kick off. Right, things are looking good. So we start with Variety. Now, new DC Universe unveils first 10 projects. Superman Legacy in 2025, Batman and Robin movie, Green Lantern series, Wonder Woman prequel, and more. So we start with Variety, and we're going to start with James Cameron's new DC Universe. Lots of content from the reveal this week. Some good, some bad, some potentially dead on arrival, if I'm being honest. But let's do a bit of a deep dive, because I've only kind of briefly seen what all of this means. I think we'll be breaking it down first, then we'll be looking into, first reactions, see what we think. And then I'd like to explore what this means for the DCEU going forward as well. Because I imagine there's going to be a lot of implications, not just with the movies that are coming out this year, like The Flash, like Aquaman, but obviously the subsequent films in 2024, perhaps 2025. Right, so 3 months after James Gunn and Peter Safran officially started running the newly created DC Studios within Warner Brothers, Discovery, the co-chiefs, have announced the first 10 film and TV titles within the rebooted DC universe. On Monday, Gunn and Safran met with the press on the Warner Brothers studio lot to present what they said was the first part of Chapter 1 of the DCU, which they are calling Gods and Monsters. The projects run the gamut. There are titles based on marquee DC heroes, including the previously announced Superman feature written by Gunn, now officially titled Superman Legacy, a Batman and Robin movie, a Wonder Woman prequel series, and a Green Lantern mystery series, as well as titles featuring lesser-known characters including Booster Gold and Swamp Thing. The DCU exists as a multiverse, Safran said, but the titles will exist in one singular universe. Overall, the slate represents the most robust vision for DC's future in scripted entertainment since Warner Brothers' first attempt in 2014 to build a universe to rival that of Marvel Studios. Wow. Look, this looks like, I mean, I'm unsure where this is going to pick up, and maybe this article goes into it. But, I mean, 10 pieces of content to start things off with, that's a hell of a lot of content. It's good that they're bringing in a Superman film. It's good that they're doing a Batman film. It's good that they're bringing in Robin into the Batman film. The Wonder Woman prequel series, that sounds interesting, and I think it keeps within the the trio, the Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman trio. And I love the fact that they're bringing in a Green Lantern series, because the Green Lanterns was something missing from the previous DC extended universe. I know we saw that Green Lantern character in the Zack Snyder's Justice League film at the end, in kind of what was a somewhat post-credit scene or pre-credit scene. What I'm slightly not so interested in and not so kind of really bothered about is the other lesser known characters, and what I think they'll be doing is bolstering these on and using the trio and the Green Lantern characters to boost these characters within the DCU. So it sounds like a lot of content to start with, and it sounds like, while they're trying to build a universe like Marvel has done, they're almost trying to put down, they're almost trying to start this universe with lots of content, lots of characters, and that's a different approach as to what Marvel took with their MCU. So DC Studios is unprecedented, Safran says. It is a standalone production entity and studio. It is the first time ever that everything DC related, film, television, live action, animation and gaming, is all centralised under one creative vision, that of James and myself. Gunn and Safran also answered questions on the writer-centric philosophy behind their approach, and provided updates on DC projects that fall outside the core DCU, including Matt Reeves' The Batman Part 2 and Todd Phillips' Joker. Well, that's quite an interesting piece from this article, because I guess it allows us to understand the vision. That seems quite a grand vision, tying in everything, even including the gaming and the animation, something which the MCU hasn't done. And it all sounds like they are attempting multiple universes, but the core central universe is going to be this one, consisting of Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and the Green Lantern core. So, given that the DCU is still very much in its earliest stages, the execs were light on some specifics. No directors have been attached to any projects, although they said they're very close on signing at least a couple, and no actors are attached either. The exception is Viola Davis, who will star in the HBO Max series Waller as the immoral, self-imposed superintendent of the DC Universe, Amanda Waller. I mean, she played a decent part, to be fair, in what was it now? The Suicide Squad, and I think she was in the Peacemaker series as well. Decent actress playing a good role. It's not really a flagship entry though that they want to kind of kick this off with. They want to hit the ground running with Superman entries, Batman, Wonder Woman and Green Lantern, without starting their universe off with those characters. I think the normies, as well as the normies, are going to be confused as to what this means, and the comic book fans are going to be pissed, because what they're expecting this DC Universe reboot to be is hit the ground running with the trio and with something to do with Green Lanterns. But we'll see. I mean, maybe this talks about it some more. So she originated in the role in 2016 Suicide Squad, as we've said. Similarly, Safran and Gunn left the door open for Gal Gadot, Jason Momoa, Ezra Miller and Zachary Levi to continue playing their respective DC superheroes of Wonder Woman, Aquaman, The Flash and Shazam. But Gunn reiterated that Henry Cavill will not continue as Superman. Otherwise, the exec said there will be casting new actors in these roles. I mean, look, Jason Momoa played a fantastic role as Aquaman. Ezra Miller, we all know his life at the moment is a bit of a mess, and he's been in a lot of trouble. Gal Gadot did a really good version of Wonder Woman in Wonder Woman, the first film, as well as Zack Snyder's Justice League. As for Zachary Levi, I've got to be honest, I didn't see the appeal of the Shazam films. They were kind of childish for me, and they were always kind of subpar, and that was similar to Black Adam as well, and there doesn't look like there's any talk of Black Adam here. So to have them four stick around with Henry Cavill being axed, and I don't know what's going on with Batman and Ben Affleck, it seems like they've kind of lost the two best characters and kept the, I guess, two decent ones in Gal Gadot and Jason Momoa, and kept another two kind of subpar ones going forward. But what can we do about that? We'll see. What I have heard, though, and maybe there's some rumours dotting about, is that the Flash film coming out this year, although it's had a lot of rescripts and rewrites and new directors and new scenes being filmed, I've heard as a rumour that the new Flash film will be the film that reboots this DC universe. Now that could be interesting because it could tie in the Zack Snyder Justice League, it could tie in the 2014 DC universe, it could tie in other universes like the Matt Reeves The Batman. It could tie in all of those with this new DC universe. But let's see. So, to build the overarching story for the DCU, Gunn brought together a writer's room of Drew Goddard, The Martian, Jeremy Slater, Moon Knight, Christina Hobson, The Flash and Batgirl, Crystal Henry, Watchmen, and comics writer Tom King, Batman and Mr. Miracle. Gunn indicated that at least some of these writers would continue working on DC projects, including Henry, who is co-showrunning Waller. Well, let's just break these down. So, Drew Goddard, decent film, The Martian. Jeremy Slater, I mean, Moon Knight wasn't the best, but it was a decent TV entry for the MCU. Christina Hobson, The Flash and Batgirl. I don't think we've seen Batgirl. Oh, no, we did. I mean, if they're talking about that, the show that was axed, then, and the Flash film, or is that the Flash Arrowverse? I mean, we're in trouble with her. Crystal Henry, Watchmen. I mean, again, if this is the Watchmen series that we've saw recently, that was an absolute abomination. And comics writer Tom King, well, I've heard he's literally destroyed the Batman comic book franchise, and I don't know what Mr. Miracle is. So, I mean, if this is their A-list writer's room, then I think we're in trouble already, and I think there's a red flag here already. So we sat down in a room for a few days and we started to bash out what the basic overall plan could be, Gunn said. Not so much that it ties your wrists, but enough that we know what the basic story is, where we're going, and it's something that we'll continue to do. I mean, it's good that they're planning it, because it sound, the previous DCU, iteration barely had a plan. And then when we moved into the Zack Snyder verse, once that went a bit pear-shaped after Batman and Superman, and the DC kind of execs got involved and did a lot of reshoots and stuck their nose in it, that went pear-shaped as well. The only real successful projects, I believe, have been the Zack Snyder's Justice League and Wonder Woman #1, maybe Aquaman as well. I'm a massive fan of Man of Steel, and I thought the legacy, the extended cut of Batman versus Superman was brilliant. But I know that they're quite, divisive in terms of the fandom. So mixed feelings so far about this. So the plan, Safran and Gunn said, was to release roughly 2 films and 2 series per year in the DCU. That output will not, however, sacrifice quality to meet deadlines. Gunn and Safran were adamant that films and series will not go into production until scripts are finished, which is not the norm for pricey tentpoles that need to create awareness by planting flags on calendars. All in, the slate that co-leads announced on Monday will run through 2027. Only Superman Legacy and The Batman Part 2 have set release dates. So it goes on to talk about a breakdown of the movies and the TV shows. So the first one, Superman Legacy. Set to open on July 11th, 2025, Superman Legacy will mark the start of the DCU, as Safran put it, but it will not be an origin story of the proverbial Man of Steel. Right, let's just recap on what we've talked about above. So, limited content a year is a good thing for me. Quality without sacrificing, meeting deadlines without sacrificing quality, that's another good thing for me. Series and films not going into production until scripts are finished, that's another good thing. What else have we got? And running until 2027. Well, this shows they've got slight long-term plan. I mean, my God, did Kevin Feige have a 10-year arc? I probably imagine he did when he started the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, considering they've only got a 3-4 year timeline vision for this, does that mean we could wrap up an overarching story in 4 years? I don't know from what I've read so far. So, Superman Legacy, set to open July 11th, 2025. It focuses on Superman balancing his Kryptonian heritage with his human upbringing. Safran said, "He's the embodiment of truth, justice, and the American way. He is at kindness in a world that thinks of kindness as old-fashioned." And it sounds very Superman. I'm unsure why they couldn't get Henry Cavill to do this role, though, because it sounds, he's still a youngish guy. Maybe they're looking for more kind of the Tom Welling, younger Superman vibe. I think that's probably what they're going for here. Gunn is writing the project, and Safran says he hopes Gunn can be persuaded perhaps to direct it as well. Warner Brothers Discovery's CEO David Zaslav made no secret that rebooting Superman was a top priority for the company, as he spent much of 22 searching for the right leaders for DC Studios. So it's little surprise Gunn and Safran are turning to the most recognisable superhero in the world to lead the charge for the DCU. Superman is for everyone, Gunn said. There's a 4-quadrant film that should speak to everyone in the world. A separate movie produced by J.J. Abrams through Bad Robot, should I say, and written by Ta-Nehisi Coates remains in development and would exist outside the DCU. That sounds quite confusing if they're looking to toggle 2 Superman projects at once and build not just this one cohesive universe, but have these side projects and side characters. It sounds as well like they're going to keep Matt Reeves the Batman as well. From what I understand, and other rumours are surfacing that Batman and Robin film in this universe will be separate to the Matt Reeves, Robert Pattinson one. Again, that sounds quite confusing. That sounds like it's not going to just be one standardized universe. Let's see. Right, so this second entry, The Authority. I mean, I don't know what The Authority is. I'm a big fan of Superman comics growing up. My first comic was a Superman comic. I've bought a couple of Batman comics in the past as well. But really, apart from, you know, it was the MCU and the initial DC films that really brought my love of superheroes to life, especially the MCU with Iron Man and Captain America, and building that massive world to the Thanos level event. When we had the Justice League, in terms of the Zack Snyder Justice League, that was just one of the best films of the year for me. What it sounds like, though, is that is not the case here. It sounds like there's going to be loads of quality content, or loads of quantity over quality. That's what worries me here, is 10 projects to kickstart this DC universe. Sounds like a lot of content. My first impression on that then is, let's hope it's not quantity over quality, what we saw with Marvel Phase 4. Anyway, so we've got a film called The Authority. The Authority, a project he's really excited to bring to life. The characters come from Wildstorm in 1992 as an independent entity under DC Comics. The Wildstorm characters were later folded into the main DC comic universe when the company rebooted. It isn't just a story of heroes and villains, and not every movie and TV show is going to be about good guy versus bad guy. These are people that are very questionable, like the Authority, who basically believe that you can't fix the world in an easy manner. And they take things into their own hands. Well, this sounds probably a lot like Guardians of the Galaxy, which James Gunn directed. I just hope not every one of these projects is like Guardians of the Galaxy, is like the Suicide Squad, is not that jokey feel, because that's what all I've seen from James Gunn so far. What I haven't seen is that dark noir, DC universe, DC film. You know, Batman Arkham Asylum games, probably some of, if not, you know, the best superhero games ever made. Arguably, top 5, top 10 games ever made, because it was a quality game. It was serious. It took Batman seriously. And if they're looking to transition that sort of storyline into this Batman film, into the Batman and Robin film, into this Batman universe, that would be great. And that sort of seriousness. If we're going to get every single one of these IPs as real kind of jokey Marvel jokes, Marvel sort of humour, with that tone of Guardians of the Galaxy and the Suicide Squad, I think we're in a bit of a rough spot here, and we should be worried. Right, let's move on. I don't know what the Authority is, but you know, it sounds different, we'll say. So the next movie then is The Brave and the Bold. Along with introducing the DCU's version of Batman, who will exist separately from the version played by Robert Pattinson in The Batman, The Brave and the Bold will introduce the Bat family, Gunn said. First among them is Robin, who is returning fully to live-action movies for the first time since 1997. Batman and Robin. I mean, it's good that they're bringing Robin back. Which Robin are they bringing, though? This version of Robin is Damian Wayne. Gunn described him as our favourite Robin. Damian is Bruce Wayne's biological son, a fact unknown to Wayne for the first time for the first 8 to 10 years of Damian's life. It's very a strange sort of father-son story about the two of them, Gunn said. This project is based on the run of Batman comics authored by Grant Morrison, who Gunn said was exceptionally influential on the DCU. The other comics writer Gunn mentioned by name was Tom King, who we're not a big fan of here, who participated in the DCU writers' room and leads right into the next feature. Tom King being on board, that's quite a red flag for me, because he hasn't done very well with his Batman comics. Bringing Robin on board is a good sign. I think that's what the Zack Snyder Justice League lacked, and it would be great to see Robin brought to life, because I'm a massive fan of the original Batman series. His name escapes me now, but the old-fashioned version, and it was always great to have Batman and Robin and that adventures, and it would be great to see another version of Robin. I know we had some references to Robin in the Zack Snyder's Justice League, but they kind of avoided that and bounced around it, so it'd be good to see Robin. The Brave and the Bold, though, doesn't sound to me like a Batman project. If it was up to me, I would literally be making a live-action version of Arkham Knight, Arkham Asylum, and bringing in that whole rogues gallery of Batman villains. I would love to see Ben Affleck's version of Batman and Deathstroke, and that kind of Terminator vibe. You know, Batman versus Deathstroke, we would tease that in the Zack Snyder's Justice League in that post-credit scene. Bringing that to life would be absolutely kick-ass. It doesn't sound like this. I mean, what he's talking about and what I'm getting the feeling is that these are all James Gunn's favourites here. And I hope that's not the case. I hope he delivers and brings to life what is right for DC, what is the best version of DC that can be delivered, not just stuff that he thinks it's his favourite or he thinks is good. Right, I mean, to be fair, we've kickstarted with a Superman film. We've kickstarted with some unknown IP in the Authority. I mean, when it comes to DC, I know a lot about the big characters. When it comes to kind of that, you know, the C list and the D list, not really too interested, because this universe should start with the trio. It should start with Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and also if they can get some form of Green Lantern TV show, film, and it looks like we're probably going to get a Lantern TV show here, then I think that's all you need in this phase one. Then once you've established the universe, once you've established the threat, you can then start bringing in these kind of B, C, D list characters just to bolster the universe, just to bolster the IP, and then prop up those new characters alongside your A list, your trio and your lanterns. Sounds like they're trying to do too much here in my eyes. Right. So the next one. So we've got Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. So based on King's Comics run of the same title from 21 and 22, Woman of Tomorrow features Superman's cousin Kara Zor-El, who, as Gunn explained, is a very different type of Supergirl. We see the difference between Superman, who was sent to Earth and raised by loving parents from the time he's an infant, versus Supergirl, who was raised on a rock chip off of Krypton and watched everyone around her die and be killed in a terrible way for the first 14 years of her life. Gunn called this Supergirl much more hardcore, though King's series also involves Krypto, the Superdog. I mean, having Supergirl, I know we've just had the the CW version of that show, and that was a bit of a flop in my eyes. Bringing Supergirl in Phase 1 to the live action, to the cinema screen. You know, she's not A-list. She's not A-list in terms of the DC characters. I'd probably say she's B-list. But having kicking start a universe with Supergirl is the wrong move in my eyes. Sounds like a subpar film as well. And we've got Swamp Thing. Easily the most extreme example of Gunn and Safran's conviction of Easily the most extreme example of Gunn and Safran's conviction to diversify the DCU, Swamp Thing will investigate the dark origins of Swamp Thing, Safran said, through the prism of horror. By way of explaining further, Gunn referenced the initial reactions to the Guardians of the Galaxy joining the Marvel Cinematic Universe and initial questions about how Rocket Raccoon would work standing next to Thor. That mashup quality wound up being one of the highlights of Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. Gunn said they're one-upping that approach with Swamp Thing. This is a much more horrific film, but will still have Swamp Thing interact with other characters. I mean, again, Swamp Thing, out of the real comic book fans, who really knows Swamp Thing? This should be like a Phase 2 or a Phase 3 film, not a Phase 1. You don't kick off your universe with subpar characters or unknown characters. Look at the MCU. When they kicked off the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they did it with Iron Man, the Hulk, and Captain America. Arguably three of the most well-known Marvel brands outside of outside of Spider-Man, the X-Men, Wolverine, and these were kind of still well-known household names. So they started off with the right characters. They probably didn't start off with Superman. They didn't start off with Spider-Man or the X-Men or Wolverine because they didn't have the rights. So the rights that they did have, I think they started off with the right characters there. What it seems to me like they're doing in the DCU is starting with the trio and Lantern, but at the same time trying to bolster the content for HBO Max, just to get stuff out there, I think. Which I think is the wrong move. Right, so let's move on to television then. So, I mean, the fact that we're starting, and I'm guessing this is how James Gunn talked about this in the DC announcement, is the fact that you're starting off your television series with three relatively unknown, four relatively unknown. Hang on, where's Lanterns? So it's two relatively unknown properties, and then we move on to the Green Lanterns. I mean, if it was me, I'd be kicking off this with boom, Green Lanterns, boom, Superman. Yeah, this seems like a bit too much for Phase 1 for me. I mean, let me know what you think below, though, because I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on this announcement. If you've watched the announcement, great. If you haven't, let's crack on with the television announcements. So, Creature Commandos. This animated series for HBO Max is the very first project greenlit by Safran and Gunn, who has written every episode. The show is already in production. The Creature Commando characters were first launched in 1980. The premise features Frankenstein's monster teaming up with a werewolf, a vampire, and a gorgon to fight Nazis in World War II. It doesn't appear that Gunn's version takes quite the same approach. One of the characters from Gunn's 2021 film, The Suicide Squad, is one of the commandos, along with Rick Flag's father, Rick Flag Sr. Animation, Gunn said, allows the creative collaborators to tell stories that are gigantic, but without spending, 50 million an episode. Crucially, Gunn said that the actors cast to voice the characters on the show will also play the roles in live action later in the DCU. I mean, to have them come back and play the live action is quite a commitment for the characters. We've talked about Waller above. Right, this is what I'm interested in. Lanterns. Because this is something we haven't had before. I know we had the Ryan Reynolds film, but an actual really good Green Lantern film, TV series is something we're missing in the DC universe. Lanterns. Of all the TV series, Safran and Gunn seem most excited for Lanterns, as we all are, which Safran described as a huge HBO quality event that is very much in the vein of True Detective. True Detective Season 1 was banging. It was great television. The show will focus on two of the best known members of the Green Lantern Corps, Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart, which in my eyes are the perfect two characters to go with in this series, who investigate a mystery that Safran said plays a really big role leading us into the main story that we're telling across our film and television. Now, from what I've heard from some rumours, some not leaks, but some rumours out there, is the Lanterns will be tied in with Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart doing this True Detective style series to find or see, try and find or try and look for the anti-life equation. If that's the case, then that obviously means that the overarching theme of this would be moving into some sort of dark side storyline, which would be badass. Because from what we've seen already with the Zack Snyder's Justice League, is Darkseid, if you portray him correctly, is an absolute formidable villain. I mean, Zack Snyder did it perfectly, I think, and it's such a shame that we're not going to see part 2 and part 3. We can only hope, though, for that. So this is very important, a very important show for us, Safran continued. This project is separate from a Green Lantern series that was being developed by Greg Berlanti for HBO Max, which is now no longer moving forward. Greg's version was more of a space opera, Safran said. Our vision is much more True Detective, terrestrial-based investigation story. Excuse me. I mean, if they are looking for the anti-life equation, that would be fantastic. Maybe they're looking for Darkseid. Maybe they're looking for the anti-life equation. Maybe they're looking for Superman. Right. Next is Paradise Lost. This Game of Thrones-ish story, Safran said, is set on an island of Themyscira before the birth of Diana, aka Wonder Woman. It's really about the political intrigue behind the Society of All Women, Safran said. Gunn added, how did that come about? What's the origin story of an island all women? What are the beautiful truths and the ugly truths behind all of that? And what's the scheming like between the different power players in that society? The provocative title recalls the Paradise Island Lost comic series, authored by Phil Jimenez and George Perez, which followed a civil war on Themyscira. However, that run directly involved Wonder Woman. To start it off with, this Game of Thrones-ish story is a great hook. To have it about an island full of, a prequel about Themyscira without Wonder Woman is a bit of a letdown to me. Right, finally we've got Booster Gold, which allows the DCU to fully stretch into outright comedy. While he may not be familiar to casual fans of DC, The character, also known as Mike Carter, is a fan favourite amongst devoted readers, and that's all it seems like it would be, is content for the devoted reader. But in order for this to be successful, the DCU has got to appeal to the masses, it's got to appeal to the normies. Look at what happened with the MCU. These were comic book characters based on loves of, us comic book geeks and nerds, but the films appealed to the masses, and that's why it was successful. Safran called Booster a loser from the future who uses basic future technology to come back to today and pretend to be a superhero. In the 25th century, Mike is a disgraced former football star who uses a time machine on display in the Metropolis Space Museum. Added Gunn, basically Booster Gold is an imposter syndrome as a superhero, whatever that means. Now let's just recap this, because what I've heard and what probably isn't explicit in this is the Flash film is the reboot for this universe. So they're using an existing property with existing IP and existing characters to reboot their own universe. Who is staying on? Well, at the moment, it sounds like Aquaman, Wonder Woman, The Flash, and Shazam are all staying on in some sort of fashion. We know that Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill are gone as Batman and Superman, respectively. What that means for the other four, though, I suspect they will run their course of their films and then they will axe them and probably either recast them or do something else with those characters. What else have we got? We've got a lot of B, C, D list characters coming to fruition, being propped up by, the DC Trinity and the Lantern Corps. Not the best move in my eyes. They should have just stuck with Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern Corps, and had that as phase 1, running towards a dark side big plot point with the Batman suite of villains, some Wonder Woman cool crazy stuff maybe on Themyscira, and Batman as well as Superman has got crazy levels of villains. We haven't seen a Brainiac since Smallville. We haven't seen they probably won't bring the Joker in, but and we had the Riddler and we had the Joker in the Batman series. They could probably just shoehorn Robert Pattinson's Batman into this universe and make it work. For me, though, what this means is things may be confusing to start with, because we've got old DC characters in The Flash and Aquaman and Shazam having films, and then things get rebooted through the Flash film, which, from what I still know, includes Michael Keaton's Batman as well. So you've then got another property involved. At the same time, you've got these kind of Elseworld, as what they're calling them, Elseworld properties in Matt Reeves' The Batman. We've got the Joker and the sequel to that. We could have Zack Snyder's Justice League phases 2 and 3 as another property as well. So to have all of these universes sounds very, very confusing to everyone, probably but the comic book fans. But like I said, to get the normies involved, to get the normies on board, is what will make this DC universe a major success. First reactions then, just to recap. The Lantern Corps piece sounds fantastic. Love the fact that they're going to be doing like a True Detective style series that will be tying in with the grander narrative. What they haven't suggested, though, is what that grander narrative will be. And yes, that will probably come in time, but that's a red flag for me, is that they're not being explicit or not giving us some breadcrumbs to what that will be. I would love it to be Darkseid. I would love it to have like this mass universe of all the rogues gallery of Batman, Superman, and even Wonder Woman and the Green Lanterns versus Darkseid and the villains as well. At the same time, the B and the C and the D list characters sound underwhelming, especially for a reboot, especially for kickstarting a DC universe. I mean, the fact that they're going down the same route as the MCU is kind of disappointing, but at the same time, it's what they've seen the success with Marvel and they want to replicate that success. My God, they've got the two biggest properties in the world in Batman and Superman. They don't need to follow Marvel at all, but I guess they've seen some success with Zack Snyder's Justice League. They've seen that massive success with the Infinity Saga. I guess they want to try and build this universe, but I think they're going about it the wrong way. For me, the B onwards, characters are a bit of a disappointment. And even the A-list stuff, there's no actual Wonder Woman property here. The Superman property we have been given isn't exactly him against one of his main villains. And the Batman and Robin piece is probably one of the best films out of the slate. The thing that I'm most excited about is the Green Lantern Corps series. But apart from that, it seems a bit underwhelming. A lot of projects. What I think this means going forward, though, is, and I really hope this is not the case, is quantity over quality. Because so far I'm seeing a lot of what James Gunn has delivered before. I'm seeing a lot of references to Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm seeing a lot of references to the Suicide Squad, and they've got their own tone. I'm not seeing a lot of what DC should be, and that is dark, mysterious, noir, taking their characters real seriously. As decisive as it was, Zack Snyder got the tone perfectly. He took Batman seriously. He took Superman seriously. He took Wonder Woman seriously. He started to create this cohesive universe. I guess the only one he didn't take seriously, and being a fan of like Justice League of America, was the Flash. Rightly so. The Flash is a comical character. And I think he portrayed the Flash in the Zack Snyder's Justice League film perfectly. I think what they're trying to do here is load HBO Max with loads of content, whilst kind of, restarting this universe by throwing loads of content at the wall, throwing loads of films into the cinema to prop up the DC brand, to get it out there. I would have gone the opposite way. I would have focused on quality over quantity. Quality with your trio, with that Trinity DC in Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and something with the Green Lantern. Whether that's a series like we're going to get, by the looks of it, or whether that's a film. Could be both. Could have done both. Nothing stopping them doing both. Yeah, like I said, no overarching villain, no overarching storyline, no kind of breadcrumbs towards that sort of Thanos, Darkseid, even Brainiac level event. Could be anything like that. And a universe centered not around the trio that they got. is a failure in my eyes. It is a massive red flag. Would I say this is dead on arrival? I would. You could argue that the B-list stuff is dead on arrival. I just fingers crossed that the Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern stuff is top class stuff, because that's what we need from DC. Whether they should be copying the DC, the DCU should be copying the MCU, that seems to be the case, building this universe. But having all of these little side projects as well, with the Joker, with Matt Reeves' Batman, with all of these Elseworld properties, remains a confusing part of all this for me, along with having the Flash film being the turning point in this reboot. Let me know what you think in the comments below. It'd be great to hear your thoughts on this, because I'm a bit on the fence with this. I'm really hoping that they deliver some quality films, some quality TV shows, and really kickstart this universe in the best possible way. Right, let's just quickly check the chat. If you're joining us in the chat, feel free to say hi. It's great to have you with us. Thanks for all the likes, the comments, the subscribes recently. Helps the channel massively. We're looking to grow at jikGeek, and we're looking to pump out regular content. We've done some, we did some videos this week which have been massive for the channel. Really great success. Loads of likes, loads of views. We did our Final Fantasy X Nosferatu walkthrough yesterday. That will be going up shortly this week as a video to the series, and plenty more to come next week as well. Let me know what you think though. Let me know what you want us to talk about next. Let me know what you like, what you don't like. Always looking to get feedback on the channel. Always looking to take on board your suggestions as well. So what else have we got to talk about today? What I wanted to do was check out the Mando trailer, because I wanted to do a reaction on the I wanted to do a reaction on the channel. Just never got round to doing it. So let me see if I can. Let's see. Yeah. Right, let's add that. I'm just going to get the headphones on for this. And if you've watched the Mandalorian trailer, let me know what you think about it, because I haven't seen it yet. Okay. Oh, that's a bit big. Right, let's just reduce that. Hopefully you can still all hear me in the chat. Should we be able to play this through the headset? Oh, okay. Right, we're good to go. Okay, so we've got the outputs. I can hear that. We've got the video. Okay, Mandalorian Season 3 official trailer reaction. Let's get to it.
Our people are scattered, like stars in the galaxy. What are we? What do we stand for? Being a Mandalorian's not just learning about how to fight. You also have to know how to navigate the galaxy. That way, you'll never be lost. I'm going to Mandalore.
Yes.
So that I may be forgiven for my transgressions.
Yes. This is what we want.
This is the way.
This is the way. Yes.
There's something dangerous happening out there. And by the time it becomes big enough for you to act, it'll be too late.
Oh yes, got Jedi's! We've got Jedi's, yes!
Hang on, kid.
Oh, this one's fast. Oh yes! Oh my god!
This is the way.
This is the way. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. That looks badass. Seriously. That looks badass. Now, apologies if that was really loud, but that was seriously good. Right, let's switch back to the normal one. Okay.
When it comes
to that, yeah, that was seriously good. Right, let's do a usual breakdown. I just want to kind of go through it scene by scene a bit, as we usually do. I think we did this for the Ant-Man 3 trailer, recent trailer, and
this is the way.
I like that approach, so I think we'll do that. We don't want you screen crush. This is what we're after.
Our people are scattered, like stars in the galaxy. What are we?
Right. Okay, cinema mode. Now we'll stick. I don't know what it's been. Yeah, this looks badass. This looks seriously good. To be fair, massive fan of Mandalorian Season 1 and Season 2. That climax at the end of Season 2 was one of the best things I've ever watched on telly in years.
Our people are scattered.
Sound off. What I'm seeing is loads of Mandalorians, loads of guns, loads of fighting, loads of Baby Yoda. You know, decent. You know, it's become the trope of other Star Wars shows, but I think Baby Yoda is a great piece to this story. I really do.
What do we stand for?
What I'm seeing is cowboy western in space which for me is the Mandalorian through and through. I mean, that's what I loved about season 1. It was literally space cowboy. And, you know, we get the...
Never be lost.
I can't remember his name. But we get this fella coming back. So we get all the old faces from season 1 and 2. What it sounds like we haven't got, though, is any reference to Luke, any reference to the Darksaber, any reference to, you know, like the Sith or anything like that. So maybe they're Easter eggs they're looking to give us in another trailer. Maybe they're Easter eggs they're looking to give us in the just in the show, for instance. But I think what I've seen so far is brilliant. Is Mandalorian through and through for me. I'm going back to Mandalore. This is the sort of storyline I want to see. I want to see him taking on Mandalorians, you know, getting back to a point where he is accepted by his own people, and then teaming up with them against some badass villain. That's what I would want for this. What I also want for this universe, though, this Mandalorian universe, is Mando. I want Bo-Katan. I want what's her face? What's her name? The Jedi. Ahsoka Tano. I want Luke Skywalker. I want Baby Yoda teaming up to fight some big bad boss. And I want this kind of shared universe, overarching story where they all kind of come together and fight this mad kind of, not the Emperor, because we've done the Emperor, but this sort of mad next level villain, because that'd be badass. That would be badass. I know we've got the Ahsoka Tano show coming soon, and this is coming back in March. I can't wait for this. Some of season 2 was a bit naff, but that finale just smashed it out of the park for me. It's going to be tough to match that, to top that, because it was so good. And Luke Skywalker is a massive hero of mine. So from what I saw, he's going back to Mandalore. Is this where did I just miss that?
So that I may be forgiven for my
I may be forgiven for my transgressions. I see him landing in Mandalore. They're trying to kill him. He does something to get them back on his side. His transgressions are forgiven. And then he teams up with the Mandalorians, and they just go on some massive outrage against the bad guys. That's what we want. This is what Star Wars is all about. Good guys versus bad guys, and robots and space ships and
transgressions.
Just want to get to that shot. May the Force be with you.
There's something dangerous happening.
Oh, I mean, that is beautiful. Just look at that for scenery, and that looks like Star Wars to me. And I think this is what appealed to me so much about The Mandalorian is it looked, it felt, and it was Star Wars. It got me back into that world of Star Wars, and to have that coupled with so many Easter eggs from the trilogy, bringing back lightsabers and the Jedi, that is Star Wars for me. Yeah, this looks really good.
Happening out there. And by the time it becomes...
Lots of Baby Yoda, and then we get that kick-ass Jedi scene. Star Wars is nothing without Jedis, and I'm so glad that they brought Ahsoka Tano and Jedis back into this. Now, what could this be? For me, this could be one of a few things here. That is a white lightsaber blade by the looks of it. So that could be Ahsoka Tano. That could be the Mandalorian trying to steal something, you know, maybe one of the crystals from one of the Jedi temples, or that could be one of the villains, because I don't think we got a shot of many of the villains in this trailer, but having multiple Jedis in this show is incredible. This could be something to do with Luke and, you know, bringing back Luke as maybe a mentor figure. Who knows? Who knows? Yeah. Fighter jets and X-Wings and Mando kicking ass with the plane. God, this looks like every... Oh, and then we've got all the robots. Again. Now, this is what made me believe that there might be some sort of team-up with Mando and all the Mandalorians, because that extra... That doesn't look like our Mandalorian. It looks like loads of them. I don't know if this is Mandalore. It doesn't really cite me as being on Mandalore, but could be wrong. And then we get the kick-ass scene with Baby Yoda.
This is the way.
This is the way. Now, what a badass little quote that is. So, hype for this. Looks badass. Season 3 March 1st. I mean, look, that's not even a month away. So, really buzzing for this. Really buzzing. Right, just a couple more things to go through, and then I think we'll we'll call it a night. I just wanted to run through. Now we're going to Den of Geeks this time. I think we went through some stuff, not in the third episode of jikGeek in the week, but number 2. I think we went through Den of Geeks. Always a good source for information. Follow him on YouTube as well. He's a good guy, actually. He does some good stuff. I just wanted to touch base on every Marvel kind of property we're going to see in 2023. Again, like the DC slate, there's some good stuff, there's some bad stuff, there's some kind of real bad stuff. In my eyes, this is. Let's break it down, because last year we saw a lot of crap. We saw Phase 4 was subpar, and I really hope that Phase 5 kicks things off with with some big names, some big properties. I kind of know most of this. I just wanted to really just recap what we're looking to get. Now, he does talk about some animation show, but I'm not going to go into that because I'm not really too concerned about that. So what we've got and what we've done a review on the channel about and broke down all of the leaks that we've seen so far is Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Absolutely mega hype for this. For this film. Looks badass. Kang looks badass. Ant-Man looks badass. It looks serious. It looks like it's going to kick Phase 5 off perfectly in my eyes. It looks like it's going to kick off the Kang dynasty off perfectly. And as we said in our plot leak breakdown, if you haven't checked that out, go and visit that on the channel. This Ant-Man film leads straight into Kang dynasty. So what we'll see is in the subsequent Phase 5 and 6 films is probably a lot of Kang's backstory, a lot of how he got there, a lot of what he's been up to, and maybe some of the impacts of his actions after Ant-Man as well. So we don't need to go into Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania too much. But yeah, February 17th, that looks badass. Now, one of the properties I am buzzing about is a TV series. Secret Invasion looks seriously good. It looks like Captain America Civil War and Captain America the Winter Soldier as a TV show, but just kind of like lifting and shifting Captain America for Nick Fury. Now, who doesn't love Nick Fury? Who doesn't love Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury? I think he's played the part really well, and really looking forward to this. The whole kind of Creed sort of overlap that we're getting with some of the post-credit scenes we've seen recently is I'm a bit dubious about, but we'll see, because I think they're going to explore that in a lot more detail in Secret Invasion. So what have we got here? Samuel L. Jackson is arguably the longest serving member of the MCU, and why you think you know all there is to know about the former head of S.H.I.E.L.D. Secret Invasion promises to show a more grizzled side of the one-eyed badass that he is. If you felt disappointed by Captain Marvel's Skrull storyline, Secret Invasion will be closer to the comic arc of the same name. That's really good, because that Captain Marvel storyline was terrible. After years out in space working with the Skrulls, Fury is pulled back into action by a rogue set of shape-shifting species. Like the comics, this pseudo-Nick Fury series will be a crossover of various MCU properties. From the trailer, and maybe we can do a bit of a recap of the trailer on another edition of jikGeek in the week, or we can do it on, you know, maybe a trailer breakdown when we get another one. That first trailer looked seriously good. It looked really good. I was getting massive Winter Soldier vibes, and considering how good Captain America Winter Soldier was, this looks really promising. So what we've got, bringing together Everett K. Ross, who I'm not the biggest fan of Martin Freeman. James Rhodey Rhodes, I am a big fan of Don Cheadle playing James Rhodes, and Agent Hill, played by Kobe Smulders. There's also the return of Ben Mendelsohn as good guy Skrull Talos. Newcomers include Oliver Coleman as the old ally of Fury, while Game of Thrones' Emilia Clarke is tipped to add more mutants to the MCU as sword head Abigail Brand. Well, that's good. They're bringing in Emilia Clarke. She's she's a big fan of mine and the missus. We loved her as Daenerys. So yeah, Secret Invasion in the spring looks really good, really promising. Now, we touched on before about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Guardians Volume 1, great film. James Gunn directed, great film. Number 2, I was on the fence about, so I'm really hoping that Guardians 3 really recaps the magic that we saw in Volume 1. I don't think it'll ever, go to that sort of heights, but May the 5th, let's hope they can really smash this one out of the park, because the MCU needs another great film, and I truly believe Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania will kick off Phase 5 in an incredible way. It's meant to be a really good film. I've heard lots of good stuff about it. What we need to do, though, is continue that momentum into Phase 5, banger after banger, and if they can smash Secret Invasion out of the park, I'm hoping they can smash this out of the park, because nothing can be as bad as Phase 4. So what have we got? Guardians 3. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 brings James Gunn's trilogy. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 brings James Gunn's trilogy to a close on May 5th. Announced all the way back in 2017, behind the scenes drama means Volume 3 has been a long time coming, even more so thanks to the tease of Will Poulter's Adam Warlock during Volume 2's post-credits. He looks pretty beef as well for that. He's been taking some roids and doing some lifting. He looks pretty good for that role, William Poulter. And you know what? I've got to be honest, he actually looks like Adam Warlock. He actually looks like him from the comics. It's a shame that they didn't bring Adam Warlock into the Infinity Saga, but I can see why they didn't, because they didn't want to undershadow, Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor, because he was an integral part of the universe Infinity Saga in the comics. So the gang is all back together, and we assume the crux of this movie will be Star-Lord, Drax, Rocket, Groot, Mantis, and Nebula trying to track down the alternative reality version of Gamora, who ran off at the end of Avengers Endgame. Seems quite obvious as to that's what the storyline's going to be. It's unclear whether Adam Warlock will be a friend or a foe, but by the looks of it, the High Evolutionary is the big bad with ties to Rocket's past. Even though Batista told GQ he's done playing Drax, the trailers put a lot of focus on Rocket and Gunn, saying it's one of the most MCU's saddest movies. Proves it's anyone's guess who will live to scavenge space for another adventure. Well, I've heard Drax has gone, and I've heard Rocket's going to go, and maybe Adam Warlock forms part of this new Guardians of the Galaxy that could form, maybe Mantis dies, maybe Nebula dies, because their arcs are all but finished. Nebula's arc all but finished within the Thanos storyline, so it makes sense that this be their final film. As for Star-Lord, I can't see them killing off their kind of main Guardian, so it's really a case of who out of the rest of them. I think Star-Lord and Gamora will kind of get back together. Unsure what's going to happen about the rest of them. I've got a feeling, though, Rocket and Drax are definitely on the chopping block. So we've got What If Season 2, mid-2023. Now look, Season 1 of What If, pretty decent. I loved the Ultron stuff. I thought that was mad good. If they could adapt that into some sort of live-action film, maybe across Phase 5, Phase 6, maybe in Secret Wars, maybe Kang Dynasty, that would be ace. An army of Infinity Gem holding Ultron bots from the future that Kang has brought to kick ass against the Avengers. That would be insane. I mean, we all, if you saw What If Season 1, you'll see what Ultron did to Thanos. And Jeffrey Wright played a great role as the Watcher. I really enjoyed that, and that fight scene at the end of Season 1 was really good. So Jeffrey Wright is sure to return as the Watcher, while Season 1 managed to lure him back familiar faces ranging from Natalie Portman to Michael B. Jordan and Jeff Goldblum to Tilda Swinton. Don't know who Tilda Swinton is. So far, we only know the first episode, called What If Captain Carter Fought the Hydra Stomper. Well, looking at episode 1 of Season 1, that ended with Captain Carter kind of going into that time warp, whirlpool, timey-wimey place, and ended up with all of the other characters at the end of the season. It'll be good to explore other characters, though, I think, and not retrace old ground here. So, head writer told Variety there will also be a continuation of alternative Gamora in Thanos' armour. I'd love to see more Thanos, because I'm a massive fan of Thanos, teaming up with Outer Space Iron Man. Excitingly, we also know one episode will bring Neil Gaiman and Andy Kubert's beloved Marvel 1602 to life on the small screen. Kind of unsure. If anyone in the chat knows what Marvel 1602 is, that would be really good for you to let me know. Now, I've heard good things about Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Got to admit, I haven't watched the first one with Miles Morales, but massive Spider-Man fan. Love No Way Home, and probably need to catch up with Across the Spider-Verse. I think it might be on Netflix in the UK as well. So what we've got here is Sony is muscling in on the action with the follow-up to the Oscar-winning Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. There are more Spider people than ever, but once again it's Miles Morales and Gwen Stacy who are front and centre. Following the cliffhanger tease of Oscar Isaac's Miguel O'Hara Spider-Man 2099 is also set to play a major role. While with sad Nicolas Cage won't return as Spider-Man Noir, newcomers include Daniel Kaluuya as Spider-Punk and Isaac Ray as Spider-Man. So they're building this kind of animated Spider-Verse with Miles Morales, which feels like an DC Elseworld kind of project. Whether Miles Morales' Peter Parker forms part of the MCU during Phase 5 and 6, I'd like to hope not, and I'd like to really hope that they keep this separate, because Peter Parker is Spider-Man for me, and Miles Morales is Miles Morales. Miles Morales is not Spider-Man in my eyes. As an Elseworld character, yes, absolutely. Do what you got to do, mate. Much like Robert Pattinson is playing Batman. But considering the success of Spider-Man No Way Home, and they brought, spoilers, they brought Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield back as well. I want to see more of that trio in phases 5 and 6. So, a new team known as the Spider Force has to tackle the multiversal threat of a villain called the Spot. But as the various factions lock horns over how to handle the threat, they could fall apart like the multiverse. Anyone and everyone from the history of the Spider-Man is here, so look out for the bombastic big man. Yeah, this sounds like this probably in my eyes sounds like they're going to tie in Miles Morales' character into the multiverse and probably shoehorn him into some sort of storyline with phases 5 and 6. I haven't heard any rumours about that, but that's how, as soon as you start dropping multiverse this and multiverse that, and having the possibility to go between different multiverses makes this definitely a possibility in the next few phases of the MCU. Loki season 1 was okay. I know that started off the kind of Kang thing. I'm still not certain as to why, and spoilers if you haven't watched Loki season 1, I'm still uncertain as to why Sylvie killed the one who remained, because that's the bugbear I've got with this whole multiverse saga. If she didn't kill the one who remained, all of this would not exist, because by killing the one who remained, you essentially stopped that Kang from controlling the sacred timeline. And yeah, and I've watched it a couple of times and I can't put my finger on as to why she killed him. So it baffles me that action started the whole multiversal saga and kicked off the whole Kang story plot. Because without that action in Loki season 1, none of this multiverse really happens. Good news that Owen Wilson is back as Mobius. While Sophia Di Martino plays the standout. Yeah, see, I didn't see Sylvie as a very good character. I thought she was subpar. It was all about her, and kind of sidelined Loki in his own show. Wasn't really a big fan of that. And the fact that it's a derivative character that has kickstarted the whole multiverse saga doesn't wash with me. It left a bad taste in my mouth. So with season 1 being a suitably batch affair, we have no idea where the jaw-dropping ending will take us next. I mean, it's obviously going to tie in with Kang. It'd be great to see what they do with Kang in Loki season 2, because I'd like to hope that we get a version of Kang either in the time space place that they're in, or we get multiple Kangs. That would be really good. I don't think that will be the same Kang as what we get in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, though. I think they're maybe trying to establish this whole thing that there are multiple Kangs, as I think there will be multiple Kangs in the Ant-Man film, actually. Now that Kevin Feige is confirmed we're in the multiverse saga, Loki season 2 is sure to factor heavily into the MCU's next chapter. Yes, I think it will. Excuse me. We look forward to branching away from the sacred timeline and finding ourselves more rogue variants. Hopefully Mobius will get to sail off into the sunset with his jet ski. I'm not even going to touch on the Marvels, because I just think that's just going to be an absolute abomination. I mean, I'm not a big fan of Brie Larson's Captain Marvel. I didn't watch the Kamala Khan series, and I thought Monica Rambeau in WandaVision was subpar as well. So yeah, I really hope the Marvels doesn't play a critical role in the MCU. Now, this is the interesting property that I just wanted to touch on. Kraven the Hunter, which I think is going to be played by the guy out of Kick-Ass. Kick-Ass 2. What's his name? Aaron Taylor Johnson, who is a pretty badass actor, I think. I think he's really good. He was really good in Tenet as well. Oh, we've got it here anyway. So, Kraven the Hunter. Aaron Taylor Johnson is no stranger to Marvel movies, having played Pietro Maximoff. Oh yeah, he did. He played Quicksilver in Age of Ultron. No wonder he's coming back. He sticks on some furs for Kraven the Hunter. Now, got to be honest, never heard of Kraven the Hunter, but Aaron Taylor Johnson is an actor I quite enjoy. Sony Spider-Man spin-off starting strong with Venom, but the less said about Morbius, the better. I agree, because that was just a disaster. Taylor Johnson plays Sergei Kravinoff, who is about as iconic as they come in terms of Spidey's rogues. Is he really? I don't think he is. He's not as big as Kingpin, which in my eyes should be Spider-Man's main villain. What I hope to see is the street level Avengers, Spider-Man, Daredevil, Shang-Chi, maybe even Kamala Khan going off against the Kingpin, because that'd just be badass. And the Sinister Six. Where's the Sinister Six? We haven't had the Sinister Six. We should be having a Sinister Six movie. We should be having all of these great villains coming together to fight the kind of street level Avengers. Never mind the young Avengers. We want the street level Avengers, because Daredevil, best thing that Marvel's ever done. That Netflix series, if you haven't checked it out, I seriously suggest you check it out, because it is incredible. Right, so it looks like Russell Crowe, who plays Zeus in Thor. Now that's weird that they're reprising him in another role for Marvel. Is set to return in that show as well. So there have been several attempts to bring Kravinoff into live action before, with The Amazing Spider-Man 2 teasing him for the canned Sinister Six movie. This is what I'm talking about. This is the sort of stuff that they've got to do. Maybe they're looking to bring, Kraven together to form this Sinister Six. And I'm hoping that that's where Daredevil will go. Really bringing these street level Avengers together. The potential Sony split nearly led to a non-MCU Spider-Man Far From Home sequel. Taylor Johnson cleared up confusion about this, Kraven being an animal lover, telling comicbook.com Kraven is going to be the hunter that we all want to see. Well, it sounds like an interesting property. He sounds like a good villain. The fact that he's got his own TV or film, though, that's an interesting take on this. That's an interesting direction. I think the one we'll finish on, because I'm not even going into Ironheart, I've got no time for that, is X-Men 97. Massive fan of the X-Men animated series. Me and my brother grew up watching that and love it to bits. Absolutely love it to bits. All of the villains, that whole rogues gallery was perfect. And I really hope that they bring that back and bring that iconic yellow chair that we get with Charles Xavier. Oh, as well as the theme tune as well. So this goes on to talk about that. So X-Men 97, really looking forward to this. Cue that iconic theme tune, because Charles Xavier is back in his yellow hover chair. Get in. X-Men, the animated series, defined 90s Saturday mornings. And some 26 years later, graduation day, we're getting a direct continuation. Former Witcher writer Beau DeMayo is taking over writing duties. I mean, season 1 was decent of The Witcher. In terms of the cast, most of the surviving actors will be reprising their roles, including the voices behind Wolverine, Rogue, Jean Grey, and I guess we've heard Charles Xavier's coming back as well. They'll be joined by Mass Effect favourite Jennifer Hale. I don't know who that is. Jubilee actor Alison Court. I don't know who that is. Oh, maybe that's... Is it Kitty? Maybe that's Kitty. There are more ties to the old days thanks to former director Larry Houston and showrunners Eric and Julie Lewald consulting on the series. I think they did the previous series. We've got to get as many people back from the original series because that ended perfectly. I think it was it Serpentine or X-Men animated series. Let's just double check who that was. Just want to check who that villain was. I mean, look, 8.5 on IMDb. Yeah, loved that. Let's just double check. Yeah, okay. Can't find it. Maybe we'll do a breakdown of this because I'd love to deep dive into this animated series some more. Right, so there are more ties to the old days thanks to former director. Oh, we've been through that. Yeah, first fully produced Marvel series not to be part of the MCU, although Professor X's appearance in the Multiverse of Madness might suggest otherwise. We all know we're getting the X-Men in some way, shape or form for either the Kang Dynasty or Secret Wars. I think I broke down in the plot link breakdown what does Ant-Man and the Kang Dynasty mean for Marvel Phase 5 and 6. Well, what it means is Kang versus Kang, or Kang versus the Avengers in Kang Dynasty, and then in Secret Wars it's going to be literally every single Marvel character we've ever seen in the last 25 years versus all of the Kangs. And I hope that every single villain is there as well. Just masses of characters. Which I think one of those will include the X-Men. All the characters. What I'm really looking forward to, though, in this is reprising roles for Magneto, for the Sentinels, and all of the other villains, because I loved the villains from the old school X-Men animated series. So as I said, not got any time really for Ironheart. I think that's going to be... It's either going to be one of three things. It's going to be a flop, it's going to be just meh, or it's going to be cancelled before we get it. And I think that'd be similar for Agatha, Coven of Chaos, similar to Echo as well. We don't need those three properties in my eyes. Personally think we don't need those three properties. What it does mean though is 2023 is looking promising. There is some strong stuff for Marvel Phase 5 here. Ant-Man's going to kick it off. We're going to get that great show, what looks like, with Secret Invasion with Nick Fury. We then move on to Guardians 3 and then bring in some new stuff like Kraven and then tie up 2023 with X-Men animated series. I probably couldn't really ask for more this year. Yeah, it'd be good to know though what what you're looking forward to most for Marvel coming up this year, because there's some seriously good stuff. Right, how are we doing? We are an hour and a half in. Hope you're enjoying it in the chat. Drop a like, drop a comment, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Plenty of content coming up this week for jikGeek. We've got more Final Fantasy walkthrough content with our Note Free Grid playthrough. We've got some videos coming out this week, probably off the back of this jikGeek in the week. And we've got some other House of the Dragon content coming up soon as well. Now, the last thing I just wanted to touch on is the recent Final Fantasy anniversary announcement rumours. I know we went through this deep dive in the video we put out this week, but there's a couple of things that we didn't talk about that are actually in this article. So we're picking up from .esports, never been to them before on the channel. The article talks about a lot of what we went through in the announcement breakdown. So go and check that video out if you haven't already. We basically broke down what we've heard is in the announcement in terms of the leaks. We broke down the GeForce Now Nvidia leaks that we've seen on Reddit and 4chan. And then obviously we broke, you know, we looked at what this means for the franchise going forward as well, and what other titles this could be. And I think this article is what goes into. I think this article is what we'll go into as well, what this could be. So confirmed games from the announcement. So this announcement, 35th Final Fantasy anniversary announcement, they're looking to confirm loads of titles, loads of games, loads of content as well for the upcoming, for the franchise upcoming this year. Just recapping then, so Final Fantasy 1, I guess that is, Pixel Remaster, Theater Rhythm, Final Bar Line, Final Fantasy 7 Remake, which is the remake part 2. We've got Final Fantasy 16, which I'm on the fence about, Final Fantasy 11 and 14, which I think is some sort of joint subscription package. We've got Final Fantasy 7 Ever Crisis, which I think is a prequel or some sort of prequel series, prequel content. Final Fantasy Dissidia Opera Omnia, unsure what that is, and Final Fantasy 7 Brave Exvius, another interesting title. So if there is really a February Final Fantasy presentation, these titles are of no surprise if they do pop up on screen. So unconfirmed, as we talked about in the breakdown, Final Fantasy 9, whether this is a reboot, a remake, a re-release, a remaster, who knows? It could be any one of those. I'm not the biggest Final Fantasy 9 fan. I'm more a Final Fantasy 7, 8 and 10 fan, but Final Fantasy 9 could do with a spruce up, really. And this just goes on to talk about the Nvidia leak that we covered in the breakdown as well. There was a number of games released, and essentially the ones that we've just gone through were on that list. One of the other ones that was on that list was, there's a good chance that one of the games that was on that list was a Final Fantasy 9 game. And what that means is Final Fantasy 9 will either be remade or brought out in some sort of fashion. That's what the leak says anyway. The thing that we didn't go through specifically in the breakdown, though, was we touched on Final Fantasy Tactics potentially getting a remake. What we didn't touch on, though, is Final Fantasy X3. Now, for those who know me and the channel and have been watching the No Sphere Grid walkthrough, Final Fantasy X, favourite game of all time. Love it to bits. It was my childhood. And I think Final Fantasy X finished absolutely perfectly. In my eyes, they didn't need to make an X2. They didn't need to do all of the extra content that they've done. So if they did an X3, I'd like to hope that it would bring back all of the elements that we saw in Final Fantasy X, and it's a banger. I really hope that they don't shit on the property. So Final Fantasy X3 might seem like a weird one unless you're following the Final Fantasy news. The current focus of the team, however, is obviously the remake of Final Fantasy 7 and being that part 2. Aside from these, Final Fantasy 11 and 14 were also mentioned. So that talks about the subscription unity of the two online games. And yeah, we've been over the rest of the list. If they're going to make a Final Fantasy X3, at least make it a good property, because Final Fantasy X2 was crap in my eyes. It was a shadow of what FFX was. They need that level of game that introduces all of the Final Fantasy X elements, that brings the story back to life, that either retcons or fixes all of the errors that they've made from X2 all the way to that additional content. And maybe they bring back Sin in a great way, and maybe they don't shit on Final Fantasy X and that perfect ending. Hopefully they don't, and hopefully they can maybe wrap up this trilogy as X2 and X3 in a fulfilling way. As a fan, I can only hope that they do it. To conclude this article, though, this list looks to be a Final Fantasy fan's wish list more than an actual program leak. But if this does turn out to be true, it's going to be one of the most powerful years for Final Fantasy. Luckily, we don't have to wait long, as the leaks said the presentation is happening on February 7th, which is Tuesday. Maybe we can do a quick reaction of that, actually, just to see and make a comparison about what we've seen in terms of the leaks versus actually what they announce. So that concludes everything we wanted to talk about this week on jikGeek in the Week, folks. If you joined us in the chat, it's been great to have you with us. Thanks for the likes, thanks for the comments, the subscribes, and the love with the videos, with the content so far. Hope you've enjoyed this week's edition. Love doing these, and hope to see you on the next one. Take care, have a good week, and I'll see you soon. Bye.